Hello,
Hi.
and welcome to
The Love is Blind podcast. I'm Alli,
And I'm Andrei.
and we're here to discuss
Love is Blind Sweden.
Season 1, Episode 6, called...
The bad boy always wins. I debated in my head whether I was going to do that.
I didn't know which way it was going to go either.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel okay about having done that, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely too deep into this episode to stop and start over. No, I support your choice. I'm here for your choice.
Look, I love Christopher.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
He's just not a bad boy.
He's not a bad boy.
As we
He's the
find
nice
out.
boy.
What's the description, Andrei?
The description is, 1 week after moving in together, the couples throw a joint party where they are confronted with past choices that cast doubt on their futures.
All right. Well, shall we start with reminding people to please like us and follow us and that whole deal? We're on
Yes.
Instagram, Love is Blind Podcast, on Spotify, Apple Music.
Apple Music. I think we're on Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts.
We're on YouTube Music,
YouTube Music.
which is taken over from Google Podcasts. We're on OneCast. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on everything.
Everything. We're everywhere.
Just wanted to...
We're next to you right now.
Yeah, we are. In your ears. Wanted to say a quick shout out to some folks. Well, first of all, thank you to folks who requested photos of the cat.
Yes.
You got photos of the cat.
Who sadly is now back with his owner, her
Yes.
owner.
Yes. So, Whitney, thank you for requesting photos of the cat.
And there were a few other people
I think
too.
there were a few people who requested photos of cats. I also wanted to thank Wendy for their comment to us, and also for pointing out. Look, I know that Alli sometimes comes across
so quiet.
more quiet. I have tried every technical approach to it. I am boosting her
It's
mic.
true.
I am adjusting the microphone, but I will do my best to counter that also by backing up from the microphone myself, so that I can boost the whole thing.
And I will try to project
You will do your best to project, but I apologize if...
in volume, not in psychology.
Well, sometimes.
I might.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing my best not to.
Sometimes
But
we
it
all
happens.
project. We all project sometimes.
We're doing it all the time.
We all project sometimes. I don't think
Yeah.
that's how that song goes. So yeah.
Everybody projects sometimes.
Indeed.
So we start with the drama of this episode, which is Sergio about to be a baby daddy?
Yes. And, we kind of start the episode exactly where the last one ended, which is Sergio talking to Chrysalie, where Chrysalie is saying, hey, I'm finding out these things about you, and I don't know if they're true, but if they are true, you have to be the one who tells Amanda. Otherwise, I'm going to tell Amanda. It's going to come from me. And he's just looking sideways, just eyes darting left and right, looking. I mean, I don't know if any of this is true. There's a chance that all of this is made up, but I can't help but see a very guilty-looking person.
Yeah, his behavior rings guilty, right?
His behavior rings guilty little boy.
I mean, we're not big Sergio fans coming into this, and so I think we could very well be predisposed to being like, oh yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
So maybe we're seeing
100%.
guilty behavior where really it is shock behavior. But I read his behavior as being like, how can I come up with a story on the fly that gets people off my back with this?
Yeah, and it is, I mean, this comes up repeatedly, not just in this first scene, but it continuously comes up that when he's confronted with this news, he keeps going, who did you hear that from, and what exactly did you hear?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't necessarily at any point say, no, that's absurd. That's not true at all. or maybe he says it at some point, but overall his response tends to be, who did you hear that from, and what exactly did they say, which are the kinds of things you ask if you want your response/lie to match the story that has
Yes.
been told.
Yes.
Because, if, depending on who knows what, he can reveal or not reveal specific pieces of information. That's the thing that it reads to me like, which
Right.
is, again, to your point, very possibly related to the fact that we formed a negative opinion due to his gaslighting and due to his sort of direct lying that he's done.
When you put it like that, it's like, of course we formed a negative opinion. But we formed a negative opinion, but only because he's gaslighting and lying.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only because he has a history of having done that on camera.
Yes. And we know he's lied already several times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very believable that this is yet another time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I picked up on the same thing. It would be very easy to edit out him saying that's just not true.
Yeah.
So there is that
Mm-hmm.
we can't forget the hand of the editor.
Yeah, it's very possible the editors have it out for him,
But it's also very possible that he's just not saying. And he's going back on this like, well, you should trust me. People should trust me. This comes up more with Amanda, but like, what? It's
Yeah.
such a, yeah, more on that as it is the theme of this episode. Well, I guess the theme is the bad boy always wins, but the motif.
So is the idea that Sergio wins? I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, he does seem to win in this case anyway.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh boy, oh boy. We then move on to Katya meeting up with her friends. And, her friends they're excited to hear about her fiance, and she's kind of telling them like, she's describing how great he is, while at the same time going like, yeah, he's so great, and what does he want me to do? Say thank you again, like for his compliments and for treating me so well.
Yeah.
And I get the vibe that her friends are like, okay, what do you mean? Do you think that he's just too nice? What is this vibe you're getting? Because you're describing good things,
Mm-hmm.
You're describing a really nice person. So it's surprising that you're not really into him.
They're picking up on she's not fully into him, for sure.
Which makes me wonder whether this is like a thing, right? Maybe this is something that she's experienced in the past, that guys who are too nice for her or whatever.
I wonder how much it really is that he's too nice and how much it is that she's just not into him and trying to figure out what it is. She just doesn't seem like, she doesn't seem attracted to him, although apparently they're dynamite in the sack, but she's not physically attracted to him. He's not the aesthetic she ever saw herself with. He's not like, I think she thinks she could do better.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, why do you think she keeps coming back to, maybe we should just talk about this when the scene comes up, but the fact that she denies that.
I have thoughts on, you're talking about the scene later where he says the bad boy always wins.
No, well, I guess no, denies the fact that it has nothing to do with her attraction to him, that she is in fact attracted to him.
Oh, because I think that doesn't make her, she doesn't like how that makes her look. I think that it, she's on this show about not being like caring about how people look, and now that's what she cares about, and
right.
She seems shallow, I think, is her fear that if she cops to that, it won't look good for her. So she's trying to figure out like other things that it can be. And also because it is straight up hurtful to tell, like,
yeah,
I think being generous, it's less hurtful to reject someone because they're too nice to you than to reject someone because you're just not attracted to them. Because on the
Right.
receiving end, like, you can, someone's going to appreciate you being nice to them. Being told maybe you're not attractive is a really big deal.
Yeah.
So I think it's both. I think she doesn't like what it says about her, and also I think she's trying to not hurt him too, in that very indirect way of like, I'm not going to break up with you. I'm just going to be distant and strange and not very nice until you end things with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that adds up for sure. I mean, her friends in this situation ask a lot of questions about specifically his move, the fact that, he doesn't live in Stockholm, and that he'll have to move and potentially, move in with her. And he kind of expresses the fact that he doesn't want to like move into her safe space. But this seems to be a big issue of contention of just, are you willing to move from where you currently live just to be with her?
Mm-hmm. And his like, yep, no problem.
Yeah.
And her friends are like, don't you have any sort of objection or opinion or what?
Well, I do. Well, I think one of the things that they say at the end is like, I wonder how he can be so flexible with this. And maybe they're just thinking about like, does he not have like friends? Does he not have, people who...
Maybe.
But yeah, it is interesting how much they kind of harp on that particular aspect.
Yeah, I think because Katya said that.
Yeah.
They're saying that, but I almost felt like they were trying to get him to raise an objection so that Katya could see him doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We're all kind of, this whole thing about him being too nice. We'll get to Katya's talking head later, but it's dancing around a bigger issue, which is she's just not into him.
Am I too nice?
No, this is exactly what I'm thinking. Like, you're incredibly nice, and I'm also very into you. So it's great, right? If I were not into you and you were so nice, it would feel really not good.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would just make me feel like more of a jerk. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we return to Sergio coming back from his conversation with Chrysalie to talk to Amanda.
And of course, in very typical style, he is immediately deflecting. He begins by saying, like, what's this look you're giving me? And she's like, what do you mean, what's this? Like, Chrysalie just showed up and dragged you away saying that you need to talk. She needs to talk to you about something. And you come in and you don't immediately say, let's talk about what just happened.
Right.
And,
again, how long can I avoid this so it just goes away?
Yeah.
You're just buying time.
And then he begins talking about the thread between the other contestants, about him being, among other things, I think the language he uses is a chauvinist pig, and a lot of other things, and how other contestants didn't like him. And the detail about, like, oh, I might be a father to somebody in Barcelona is kind of like, is just like a little detail he adds in there at the end.
Mm-hmm. Almost like you just skip it in the story, right?
Yeah.
There's this thread, ba-da-ba-da, people say I'm a misogynist, ba-ba-da, I have a kid, maybe, and, Catholicism.
Yeah, and clearly people, it's because people hate me. And to me, this conversation is unresolved in this scene, because it cuts to Amanda saying, if you're going to tell me everything now, and then the scene ends.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really see how that conversation turned out. which is, I don't know. I was about to say it's a bummer, but I don't know if it's a bummer. I don't know.
Yeah, there's so much editing going on with this whole storyline, storyline, like they're real people, but I think the it's just so heavily the suspense building that it makes me really question the editing here.
Yeah.
Amanda, in her talking head, where she says the thing about if you're just tell me all at once, I almost got the impression, I don't know if you felt this way too, and I want to ask you that, but did you also have the impression that if indeed he was about to have a kid, she would have tried to figure out how to make that work?
Yeah, it sounded as though she was saying, just tell me now so that we can move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, like, man, she is just
somehow stuck on him.
Somehow. Yeah. And I don't know if it's also her idea of what marriage is that could be very religious, that she's made this commitment and it's till death do us part.
Mm-hmm.
But it's alarming to me that it's like she refuses to see a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, I just really hope they don't get married. I really hope so.
I kind of don't think they will, but at this point, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we move on to our what has weirdly enough become one of my beloved couples from this episode, who is Oscar and Mira.
Mm-hmm.
Mira's preparing a cake, and she's
a sponge cake.
Still describing her reticence of kind of meeting up with a Swedish family, feeling at home among the Swedes, and but at the same time we see Oscar kind of seemingly trying to understand where she's coming from. We've talked about this, like he doesn't do a fantastic job all the time, but I think he's hoping that this particular meeting between his family and Mira is going to like help her feel a little bit more welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And she does.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. It seems as though meeting his family and feeling welcome and kind of not even just feeling welcome, but feeling as though he's just from, like, his family's just a normal family. They don't seem like uptight. They seem to care for her and kind of engage in like little traditions about things.
She belongs.
Yeah. She feels a sense of belonging, and she seems to have like a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way it's edited, we're shown this scene as being the sort of turning point for her opinion of him.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the way it's presented. And I think that seeing somebody's home, seeing their family, can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
In the way you think about a person. And I think that this does in fact have a big impact on her.
Yeah, and I think his certainty, and she's been pushing him a lot, and he has returned to her with, he was irritated, I think, in one scene, like the toothbrushing scene, but essentially has been patient and trying to be understanding.
Yeah.
And still committed. And I think that also makes a difference to her, that she's like, okay, you're not like, I can trust you more than I thought I could.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very big deal.
Yeah, and his mom is expressing emotion. He's crying about the fact that they're getting married, and his mom is like really open and like hugs Mira in that emotional moment. And yeah, it just seems as though, in this little tradition, as I believe they're celebrating Easter because they're painting eggs. They seem to connect in a way that maybe she wasn't expecting.
Yeah, her fear. We had speculation about how much of what she was saying about not fitting in was indeed due to that versus how much was it covering up that she's not into him,
Yeah.
So that's where I think the combination of it, I think there was validity to that. Not only would she belong, but also if she didn't, how would he respond?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think what I'm saying about like, I think it means a lot to her. My guess is she's had experiences in her life that make it difficult to trust. And I really wouldn't discount the impact of her feeling like you're going to be by my side even if I'm difficult.
Yeah.
Like that was, I think, kind of a secondary theme of what was happening for her.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the answer to both is yes, right? Like it goes really well with his family and he's right there with her. So yeah, like she's feeling more grateful for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when we come back to Katya and Christopher, it's just sort of tense. They're recapping her time, the introduction to the friends. And there's just tension happening where it's the same kind of like she's wanting him to push back.
Yeah.
And he's explaining, I'm doing what I think is best and compromising as part of this. And
yeah.
but it's like they're all talking about A when really it's B. Yeah.
Well, because he continues to do this thing, and we've spoken about this, where like, in not fully seeing where she's at and kind of moving full steam ahead, despite the sort of signals that she seems to be giving, he is, I think, widening this gap. Because he's describing the things that, if they were in the same place, would make sense, in the sense that he's saying, well, of course, I'll move to Stockholm. I have a fairly flexible job situation. I can do that. I'm able to travel. I can totally do that. And obviously, since we are engaged to be married, I'm like, we should live together. So let's kind of move in that direction. And if she were in the same place as he was, those signals might be really positive. The fact that he's willing to take those steps, the fact that he's willing to move forward, but the fact that he's not catching on to the fact that she's giving these, what to me seem obvious sort of body language signals of kind of, in some cases pretty verbal signals too.
Yeah.
Of, you're moving too fast. Like, even if there was some possibility that she was going to somehow reach the level that he's at, and I have some doubts about that, but he's moving too fast, and he refuses to slow down.
Yes.
And he states out loud that he refuses to slow down. He says, I'm not willing to back down.
So in that sense, he's really not very emotionally attuned to her at all.
Yeah.
Which is itself a problem.
Yes.
That would continue to happen if they were together.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an emotionally focused therapy, which is a style of couples therapy. They have this concept called, the dance and the music. Like, and essentially it's like in a conversation with, two partners, or I guess it could be more than two partners, but there's the dance, which is what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the whole kind of background of everything that's happening, the energy between them, like the history they're bringing. That's the music. And you have to pay attention to the music, even potentially more than the dance.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot with this dynamic is that, like, paying attention to the dance, it's just a guy who is trying to compromise and a girl who is feeling maybe awkward about how much he's giving versus how much she's giving.
Yeah.
But the music is, she's very not into him and he refuses to see this. And there's just this mounting discomfort and tension happening that she's finding. He's finally starting to pick up on it in a real way, but she's, I think, kind of getting to her wit's end about it. And I don't think the talking head that comes right after that with Katya could have, of course, happened at any time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wonder if it's closer in time to this interaction where she says, if you want to, share.
Well, first of all, she says that I don't want him living with me.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe I would give him a key, but I would never want him being by himself at my apartment. He's got friends and stuff. He can hang out with somewhere else, but not in my place. And she says that she wouldn't probably have a problem with this if she were in love with him, and that she's not in love with him.
Yeah.
Which,
That's it.
Which is, that's the statement, but it's also a wild thing to say regarding someone that you're engaged to. I understand, that this is a sort of a rapid moving show, but it is wild that they're at the stage, they get engaged sight unseen. And I guess at that point they are quote unquote in love, right? And then beyond that point, she is not.
Again, though, I don't know how much that was true for her versus she was rejected by Rasmus and this person was showering her with attention.
That's fair.
So, it's, but she names it. She says it explicitly. Which makes me think, now that I think about it more, maybe that talking head took place at a much later date and they're putting it there.
Yeah.
Because for the rest of the episode, she's still in this game,
Yeah, she seems positive about him.
Well, I don't know if I think she seems positive, but
you're right.
She's not telling him what's up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with 19 days to go till the wedding, it's time for the producers to stir the pot. So Jessica Almenas mentions that they're about to have a party where everyone's invited. So they're bringing all the old folks back.
Mm-hmm.
All the couples get to hang out again, but then they're bringing all of the folks who essentially were rejected by the people who are here in couples.
Yeah.
So the first sort of folks that we're getting are folks that are, well, we do get a conversation briefly between Rasmus and Sergio, where Sergio is trying to
put this whole thing about him having a kid as a test of the viability of their relationship.
Right.
We should be able to get through this because love and trust.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, that's not the issue. The issue is, are you going to have a kid?
Yeah.
But that's right. These are the machinations. This is the same sort of like gaslighting. You know? If you really loved me, if you trusted me, you wouldn't need to know the answer to this question. You needing to know the answer to this question means you don't love me. What? No, it doesn't. It means I'm about to get married to you, and are you going to have a kid? right? Like,
Yeah. So to this conversation, we get Kimia and Isabel,
mm-hmm.
who immediately kind of join this aspect of the conversation. They seem to go straight from like, hey, we've just joined the party, to let's talk about Sergio.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's this conversation that, look, from my perspective, again, Sergio really doesn't do a great job denying this, if this were in fact not true, and instead just kind of keeps asking about it,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that he's asking, who do you know this from? Yeah.
Right. And his just trying to, oh, you heard I have a wife and child. Like, it's so ridiculous.
Yes.
Again, it just,
Yes.
he just seems so guilty.
Yeah, and he seems to, he's trying to turn this into like, well, you're dragging me into this. That, this is, I'm suffering from this ultimately. But yeah, I do wish, I wish we had some kind of an answer. But maybe we will get an answer later.
Yeah. That might be a reunion show
Yeah.
kind of answer. Yeah, I don't know. He's so tiring to talk about.
Yeah.
He's like an Uche where all you want to do is just go and like shake people and be like, you have to run. Why don't you see this?
Yeah. And I mean, it's wild because we then go to Amanda outside talking to Emilia and Chrysalie. And, Amanda's talking about how, they were having this conversation and how she was like steeling herself to become a stepmom. And Chrysalie is like, I don't understand how you're handling this.
Right.
I want to be like marrying you because you're so strong. And that it's giving her goosebumps. And meanwhile, what I'm thinking is, I think Chrysalie is thinking like, why are you not seeing these as red
Right.
flags? But she's not saying it that way, is she? She's describing it as like the strength of their love.
Mm-hmm.
And probably because you don't want to, like, it seems like Amanda's happy, so she's trying to like not attack that. But I would think that, I mean, I guess at this point she was the one who broke that piece of news, right?
Mm-hmm.
To her, to him, to break to her. But yeah, it's a wild sort of, it's a wild story to have to deal with. And Chrysalie, in a conversation with Amanda, mentions that she has a friend who is a mutual friend with Sergio, and that, according to that mutual friend, Sergio, it would be wild if Sergio did have a kid. Which, I guess that there's
counts for something. Yeah.
That does count for something.
And Chrysalie also makes the point that people tell lies involving 3, and she was supposedly 3 months away from having the kid. So people are kind of concluding that they think this rumor is bogus.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the thing that makes me think it's not bogus is Sergio's guilt.
Yeah.
About it. That he just, it's again editing, but at least he has not been shown to say, no, that's just not true. Right? That's, I would think you would say that if it were not true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
or if there weren't some aspect of it that's like kind of true.
Yeah.
Like maybe he has a girlfriend in Barcelona or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the next scene is Katya talking to Mera.
And Christopher talking to Oscar. Specifically, and Oscar and Lucas, specifically about, Christopher being too nice. And Katya expressing to Mira that she wishes he would stand up to her, like tell her, shut up, Katya. And yeah, I to your point, I'm starting to buy this less and less, because I kind of disagree fundamentally with the idea that somebody should push back against you in order for you to feel like you're in that relationship, to feel solid in a relationship. I understand if she feels like he's a pushover, but the way she's describing it is that she wants somebody to like almost fight her. I don't like that.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's a thing where if you're used to high drama, high conflict relationships, the kind of nervous system roller coaster and the highs of that, if that's your setting that you're operating at, it's a real transition to go to a relationship where things are pretty smooth sailing. And I have seen very many people have difficulty with this adjustment. So it's not, I don't think it's completely bogus all the time that someone could want a little bit more antagonism. It's not, maybe their best self, but it's their self. That's where they're at. I just don't think that's the truth for her. Like it probably would be marginally sexier to her if he pushed back and played a little hard to get. Because she probably is, that probably would liven something up. But at the end of the day, she's just not necessarily that into him.
Yeah. And, Mira's pointing out how, from her perspective, she was previously kind of picking on everything that Oscar would do, everything from what he was wearing to, to show off his reasons why it wouldn't work, and how ultimately she's finding that she's liking him. And the conversation kind of turns to Johan just as Johan arrives. Also loving the fact that as these new folks are coming in, they're described, their name, age, and then it just says, participant from the pods.
From Kapslarna. Yeah, I think that probably means pods.
Deltagare från Kapslarna. And I'm like, yeah, I know he's a participant from the pods. We just...
we saw him.
It hasn't been that
we remember
long.
him.
Come on.
We also remembered Kimia and Isabel.
Come on, y'all. We've seen
he was a major player in the pods.
Yes. It's only been 2-3 episodes.
Yeah.
So, this is their first time seeing Johan. We have Mira seeing Johan. Katya seeing Johan.
And then, of course, Mira and Johan talk.
Yes.
Yeah, which Oscar's trying to give him space, understands it needs to happen, but it's obviously a little nerve-wracking. And their conversation, I think, is fine.
Yeah.
Johan seems very, very nervous.
Yes, very much.
But Mira is, if anything, more into Oscar.
Yeah, she seems to, assuming that this was the flow of events, that she probably recently met Oscar's parents, and now she's kind of feeling into him. I don't think the moment happened just yet where she at some point admits to Katya that she loves Oscar, and that's something that comes as a surprise.
I think she has. I think in their conversation she said that. Yeah. But yes, it's at some point she does say it. I might be wrong. But yeah, she's not feeling swayed by him.
Yeah.
I think she's in a moment of feeling truly grateful for Oscar. I don't think she'll always feel this intensely positive about him, but in this moment, I think she's really appreciating that he stuck with her.
Yeah. Oh man, I just had a flashback to Johan and Kamia's conversation. When
Oh, yeah.
they're seeing each other for the first time, and Kimiya's like, we should talk for a moment.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy,
Which do they show them interacting in this episode at all? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, that must be difficult for him. But I mean, I do imagine whether there was some consideration from his part to say, like, hey, like, I know that didn't work out, but do you want to, like, date? Or do you think that was just the end?
I think that was just the end. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it is wild to think about how, relationships go from strong to zero very quickly. I guess both on the show and in the real world sometimes too.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I'm still happy that Kimiya said her piece.
Yeah.
And I think she is too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they comment that he was shaking, which he was. He was.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the man gets some therapy.
I know.
Because there's a lot of things that I think he struggles with sometimes. And I think he could be a much happier and more satisfied person in his life if he just worked on himself a little bit. Yeah.
Got to get past some of that internalized anger, I think. Yeah. Oh, you're right. Mira says she's in love after.
Yeah, Mira afterwards says she's in love, which, takes Katya by surprise.
Because the last conversation they had.
Yeah, I think I think Katya is still expecting that she has this sort of ally, that she would kind of be going into this with an ally of like, we don't like our partners very much.
Yeah.
And it's just not the case,
mm-hmm.
Because she has kind of leaned in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we have Emilia. We're moving on to Emilia and Lucas, where Lucas has spilled champagne on his crotch, and he's talking about how his dick is going to smell like champagne tonight. And then Emilia reveals to everybody that they had sex.
Mm-hmm.
Full on, completely. Which also, it finally confirms something from previous episode where it was unclear whether they'd had sex. I guess maybe they just done other things, or, obviously definitions of sex are very restrained when we're thinking about this, but I guess what they're talking about PIV sex in this particular case. I'm guessing. I don't know.
So, yeah.
But I think that's what they're referring to in this case. And Amelia's certainly happy. She's certainly in a great mood as a result of it.
Yeah, which is, and just makes me feel for her so much, right? Because she's so into him, thinking things are finally like getting there.
Yeah.
And then
literally as she's kind of giggling and happy about this very thing, oh my God, is exactly when we have the arrival of Carolina.
Yeah. Another Delta Gare från Kapsarn.
Yeah, another participant from the pods.
Yeah. Oh, man. One quick comment. No follow-up on the Chrysalie Rasmus dog aftermath.
I don't think so.
This whole episode, right?
I don't think so. I do wonder whether that was just presented to us as like a little bit of tension and drama between them, but there seems to have been nothing about that.
Yeah, they seem really solid, so we'll see.
I mean, keep in mind, because it's editing, that could have happened yesterday,
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know when in relation to this particular party that actually happened.
Yeah.
So we have the scene we were expecting with Lucas and Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And he is nervous in a kind of like a giddy way of like, oh man, I am attracted to you. He turns beet red and is he is expressing, like, he's kind of expressing a little bit of like, oh yeah, I didn't really know what my choice was going to be.
Yep.
I didn't know I was going to pick Amelia. It just kind of happened last minute, last kind of little bit of a decision. And there, she compliments him, saying that he's clean cut. And then we get this, flashback of them talking, like they talked about sex a lot, and specifically how he was very sexually active, she was sexually active, and they had a high libido and they'd want to do it all the time, which obviously for Lucas and Amelia has been a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, I think that the way he describes it makes Carolina like him less. It seems like, because
Yeah.
he sort of implies that, like, I think in his sort of backpedaling and saying, oh, I actually didn't know whether I was going to say yes or no, he doesn't come across particularly great.
Yeah. And she's
Um,
like, what are you talking about? You gave her the necklace and not me.
yeah, like you don't seem particularly honest in this moment, and okay, so I think she's getting the vibe that maybe she's gotten in her life, which is like, okay, so now that you see who I am, now you're trying to backpedal on that decision.
Yeah.
I think that's what she's getting at, and what she then ultimately kind of communicates to Amelia a little bit later, saying he didn't fully shut it down.
If anything, he was flirting and
Yeah.
testing the waters, I think.
Yeah. He wanted to see how I would react to him how I would react to him if he mentioned to me that he wasn't so sure about his choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily see him say that he hasn't made up his mind in this moment, but he did say that he hadn't decided whether he had made up his mind back in the pods. And oh man, yeah, I feel for Amelia. She was in seventh heaven, and now she is in the situation where she's faced with, okay, this is genuinely the thing that I was afraid of.
Yep.
Like the exact thing I was fearing was going to happen is kind of happening.
Yeah. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they talk about it, right? Which I think that's the next scene. Yeah, it is. Where she's recapping, hey, I talked to Carolina and she suggested that you left the door open somehow. I forget exactly what she says.
Yeah.
That you were curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she asks him about this, and he can't give her the answer she wants. Yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't say this out loud in front of her, but in the talking head, he kind of admits that he's just not that into Amelia.
Mm-hmm.
And that he's just trying to avoid hurting her.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't feel as certain about her as she is kind of hoping.
I think he feels certain that he's not wanting to marry her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he sees himself marrying her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. I think he's he's leaning in the opposite direction.
The other theme, the other name of this episode could be Nobody Wants to Be the Bad Guy. Because that's what's happening for Katya and Lucas and I guess Sergio too, in his own very different way. Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't want to be the bad guy either, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, Amanda's asking for some sort of denial, some confirmation, and he says, "Nope, I don't want to talk about it. I'm shutting this down. I don't really want to bring this up anymore. We're not going to be talking about this anymore." And then when it cuts to the talking head of him, I was convinced when we were watching this that he was about to admit in the talking head that he does in fact have a baby mama in Barcelona.
Yeah.
But instead he seems that he is somehow feeling hurt by this, because he's saying that this is not painting a fair picture of him.
And I can understand why someone would leave. I want just like, it's just so manipulative, now make you pity me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of deep, deep, deep wounding. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of an open question in the therapy world whether that kind of wounding can be healed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. But certainly not in any sort of brief timeline.
Mm-hmm.
If she marries him, this will be her life, right?
Yeah.
I think he would actually get more disrespectful and mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think she would not leave him because she probably has very strong feelings about divorce.
Yeah.
Oh, so let us all hope that they end up not getting married. Yeah. Oscar and Miera, in the meantime, doing great.
Yeah.
Recapping about the Johan conversation, and she's like, we've come so far and I'm into you, and yeah.
Got good closure with Johan. She feels bad for him being sad, but that ultimately she feels strong about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come to the titular scene of Christopher and Katya.
It is.
And, Christopher points out that when they're in a situation where they're seeing all the other couples, that it becomes really obvious how not close they are. And she kind of pushes back and is like, wait, what did other people do that we didn't do?
Again, deflecting, yeah.
Yeah. And he wishes she were where he is, He wishes that she were as close to him as he finds himself close to her. And once again brings up the fact that she is not complimenting him physically,
mm-hmm.
ever. But for the first time, I feel like he's kind of describing that's difficult for him. That he's got, that he wishes he felt a little bit more appreciated. And then again, we get some pushback from her saying that, well, look, could I come so much? Could I have all these orgasms if
I wasn't attracted to you on some level?
Kind of, yeah. That's essentially what what she's saying.
Of course, I don't think, if I had said you're handsome and then didn't come, wouldn't that be worse?
Yeah.
But again, it's all of these evasive moves because he's kind of calling her out and she's not copping to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, his conclusion is that, bad boys always win. That, she's asking for pushback. She doesn't want him to be so nice. She doesn't want him to compliment her all the time. And, that nice guys always lose.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of says, yeah.
Yeah, you should challenge me more.
Yeah. I don't want you to change. I don't want you to move to my city. I want you to not give in to me. And he kind of says look, I can do that, but that doesn't work in relationships. I haven't probably in his experience, he's experienced being nice to people and that being the way to get through to them, as opposed to being an asshole, being mean, being a jerk. And I'm sure that's also being someone who identifies a little bit as a Christopher in some ways, that there's an aspect of that that's, I think he's pushing back on, like, look, I've seen other guys do this, and I don't like them.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like those guys.
I don't want to be a Sergio to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think more so than anything else, that's what he's saying, is like, I don't want to fill that role of masculinity that you are asking for.
Yeah.
That's not the way I want to be, you know?
It's so interesting to me that you identify with Christopher and I don't know if I identify with Katya, but I've said before, you know, I've been in her shoes. I don't think I went this far.
Uh-oh. Are you in her shoes now?
Oh, come on. If I were in her shoes, do you think that I would, you know, be acting to you the way I act?
Yeah, I do.
What is it that you see about other people doing that I'm not doing that you think makes me in her shoes?
Yeah, I hear you. Bad boys always win.
No, I love that you're not a bad boy, that you're a sweet, kind boy, but you know.
I mean, the other thing is that, like Christopher, I'm also a little bit alternative. I don't. Yeah. There's an aspects of me that I don't prescribe to, like, typical norms of masculinity in the same way that he does. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm here with you, Christopher.
Mm-hmm. And Christopher, I'm here to tell you, there will also be people that are very into you.
Yes.
You hear that, Andrei?
Yes. I just don't think it's Katya.
No, it's not her.
And I don't think that him being a bad boy is going to help.
Yeah.
I don't think he should change. I think they just need to acknowledge the fact that they are not on the same path.
They're just not the right fit, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But that is
the end of that episode.
Which we'll get to episode 7 soon, but when we were looking on Netflix for Love is Blind Sweden, we had to search it in.
Oh my God.
And we found out there's all of these other Love is Blind.
There's Love is Blind Germany. There's Love is Blind UK. There's
and
another season of Love is Blind Brazil. And then Sweden has announced that they have another season coming. And I'm sure that there's another American one coming. Not to say of the Japanese one that we've given zero attention to.
We're going to have to take a week off of work or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do. But what would be helpful is if people give us feedback on what we should prioritize.
Yeah. Yeah.
I assume we should prioritize Brazil the next season since that will be fresh.
Sure. Or yeah, I guess as they're, oh my God, Germany's already out and UK's already just like, they're both just out. I didn't even hear about them.
So it might be good to catch the wave. I know, I didn't hear about them either. And I really like Love is Blind Brazil, so that might be what we do. But if you all have thoughts, please do message us. And in general, message us. Let us know if you agree, disagree. We always appreciate it. Even the feedback on my now very loud projected voice.
Oh, I also, maybe I'll also have to remind myself to say this on the next episode because I don't know how many people stick around for this last little bit. But thank you to whoever has sent us 99 cents. We have two
monthly.
Well, I know we have two 99-cent donations. I will say, by the way, this is just something that Spotify, the podcast maker at Spotify, just adds in. So this wasn't us asking you for money, but whoever among you decided to give us 99 cents, thank you. That is very kind and also is going to help offset all of the money that I've put into advertising this podcast, so that all of you can hear it. Because, that is the only money we've made from it has been that $1.98.
You know what? We're grateful for every cent.
And we are. And you know what? We're going to get something nice with it.
That said, if if you do want us to take a week off of work and do all these shows, we might need a little more scroll.
I don't think anybody's going to give us a week.
No. What if we have a mega fan? What if that LaCroix guy is finally listening?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Or woman. Or NB.
LaCroix woman. Mm-hmm.
Could be any. But yes, 5 stars, reviews, or bust, and like us, follow us, all the things.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love all of the people that listen to us so far, and it's kind of fun to interact with people that we've seen before. Like, oh yeah, hey, we know you.
Indeed.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Every time I see Paula Scott.
Topola.
I love it. All right, y'all. Till next time.